Give me a second. My freaking Audacity just blew up on me.
No, you're kidding. That can't be
It's
true.
always Glenn.
Good to
It's
go,
always
tested it.
Glenn.
Hello, my friends.
Recording.
Thank you for joining us for the PEBCAK Podcast, a weekly information security show featuring some all-around good people. It is week 31 of 2023, and I'm back from vacation and extremely tanned. With me, I have my co-host, the Cloud God, who just celebrated his 50th birthday.
Woohoo!
Congratulations, Brian, and may I say you don't look a day over 49.
Man, why are you trying? What's that called? Why are you swatting me, bro? 50 years old? Yeah, jeez, you guys are killing me. But yes, thank you for remembering, although I don't think you actually remembered. And you do not look any more tan than you normally do. So you're just like an uncooked chicken, what you look like, my friend.
Does
For the
50,
record, I did remember, and I was the first one in the group chat to send you a happy birthday message.
Does 50 feel any different than 40 or 30?
Well, considering I'm not 50 yet, you know, you guys. Dang,
Well, it's kind of funny because of the three of us in the group, you probably look the oldest.
Whatever. It's because just wait till you hit 65.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Then
totally
you fall
gone.
off a cliff.
No. I told you it's 72, and then it looks like I fell off a
70,
cliff.
oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll be looking like you're 200. So,
And
but yes, thank you for the happy birthday wishes, boys. I appreciate it.
we have Glenn Medina taunting us with more pictures from his backyard pool.
Well, it's fun times. It's like 90 and 100 degrees, and the pool's about 93, 92 on average. So why wouldn't I taunt you guys?
Sure. And in full disclosure, Glenn has invited me over. I just haven't made the trek up there.
Yeah. I invited everybody
Glenn is
over.
kind of needy,
I invited
like
everybody.
a high school girlfriend. He's like, "Come, Chris, bring the kids. I'll cook. We can have so much
I don't know
fun."
how much more of an
And then Chris
invitation you need. Right?
I'm to the point where I'm like, I'll just drive and go visit him.
Right.
I know it's like 13 hours, but why not?
Why not?
In all fairness, though, I don't know how you even get in the pool when it's that warm. I have the same kind of setup, right? It's hot. It feels like bath water. I'm just in the backyard shooting pigeons. My neighbors actually asked me to kill some pigeons for them too because they got the same bird. I was like, I think they just left my house and sat on your house now, but I think I killed like 13 one night. It was pretty fun.
You remember what the Joker said?
What did the Joker say?
Probably not.
He says, if you're good at something, never do it for free.
Oh, that's a good one.
I'm really good at holding people captive with my low self-esteem. So how do I charge for that?
New business model.
New business model.
Well, that's why you are the chief evangelist.
That's what I do. Although that part doesn't come out. You know, I did 2 whiskey tasting events in the last couple weeks. It's so much fun.
Oh yeah.
But you know, the funny part is like I don't drink very often, so I always like do the cheers on camera, and then people get to see the facial expression of me trying to download this gasoline into my body. It's terrible. But you know what's messed up is I think we did a partnership with another big company, and so we had like 100 people register. 37 showed up. That is terrible. And I think sending out the sample of 4, unlabeled versions of whiskey out there, can't be free. That's terrible.
Yeah.
People got their free drinks and didn't show up.
There's a certain conversion rate, yeah. I'm sure the marketing has the metrics and that they have to hit.
But you think 37? It seems like it's pretty low, though. You think it'd probably be higher than, at least for whiskey, you think it'd be like 50%.
Yeah. Pro tip, if you don't want to actually drink the whiskey, just substitute it for apple juice and no one would be able to tell.
No, I need to slur my word. I'm just kidding. You're right. Maybe I'll just do that next time.
No guess this week. Combined, we have decades of information security experience and are here not just to educate, but to entertain. We've got 4 awesome stories for you this week, so sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. This week's episode is brought to you by the Umbrella Corporation. Our business is life itself.
Umbrella.
We've made it big, guys.
That's right. We don't know whose umbrella, but we've got umbrella.
Don't be putting down our sponsors. Damn it, Glenn. We finally got one.
One last programming note. Apparently, Podbean hates the M4A format, which is the format I normally export the podcast in. And I had to convert every episode from M4A to MP3 and re-upload every episode. So our Spotify feed may have been a little weird for a few days. But everything should be working
M4A.
fine now. If you spot anything
I don't
odd,
know if anyone actually cares.
if you spot anything odd, please do let us know so we can get it fixed. Other than that, I think our migration to Podbean is complete.
Great job doing the
Nice
hard work
work, Chris.
behind the scenes.
The funny thing is, when I imported our podcast into Podbean, there's a little checkbox that says convert M4A to MP3, and there was no context around it. I'm like, well, I like M4A. That's a little bit higher quality than MP3, so I didn't check it. And then it turns out Spotify will only ingest the feed from Podbean if it's an MP3 format. So had I checked the box, it would have saved myself a heck of a lot of work.
Dang. What a loser. Man, you're so dumb.
Why didn't you do that to begin with? I don't understand.
Well, MP3 is inferior to M4A, so I didn't want to degrade the audio for our listeners. But now I have to because
Today I learned there's a
Spotify won't do it.
M4A. Did you guys even know that was... Well, obviously Chris did.
It's what your iDevices.
Yeah, Apple.
Your
It's an
Apple
Apple
devices.
format. I
Yeah.
edit the podcast on a Mac.
Is it really? I thought they used like ACC or something.
That's a different one. AIFF. That's the lossless format. But that would be a gig if I uploaded the podcast in lossless.
Do you think for those listeners that are out there, and I probably need to ask this, is from an audio podcast track, it's just audio, just voice. We're not singing. We're not doing any of that stuff. Is it really a big difference between M4A and MP4?
MP3, you mean? MP4 is a video format.
MP3, whatever. Yeah.
Generally not. I mean, even I export it in the medium setting because spoken word, you don't need it to be as high quality, but I just figured if it's already high quality, why degrade it? And now we have to because
Gotcha.
Spotify will only ingest it that way.
So for our listeners out there, if the first 100 or 120 podcasts are in a higher quality, I guess, per se, right? So into the archives they go at high quality.
I'll tell you what. We'll bring some 808s into the podcast. That way you'll need to have that higher quality.
808, the area code for Hawaii?
No, it's
Beer?
like a drum.
Is that the beer?
Hey, you lost us, Brian.
I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Well, Podbean has been giving us some interesting analytics. No surprise, the top country for our listeners is the U.S. Second, I never would have guessed this, but our second most listened to country is Spain. So, hola, España.
Let's go record in Spain. We got to do it for the listeners.
Do it.
Let's go. I'm game.
Lastly, I received an unsolicited email to my account that, according to podcast analytics service podstatus.com, the PEBCAK Podcast is the 10th most popular technology podcast in Kazakhstan.
Which is amazing because there's only 2 podcasts in all of Kazakhstan. So
I don't know how to say hello in Kazakh, but hello to our listeners out there in Kazakhstan.
So I was reading the show notes. I was like, oh, I'll figure it out. So I, Googled it and I don't even know what these letters are, right? So then I was like, how do you pronounce this? And I listened to it like 10 times. I gave up. I'm sorry. I thought Chris is just being lazy. It's impossible. Whatever they were saying, it doesn't roll off the old English tongue.
Is it like Hyundai?
Hyundai.
No.
This week, we're going to talk about summer travel and BYOD policies, the U.S. intelligence community getting it right. For our third topic, metadata can save the day, and close with Florida man talk. For our first topic, HelpNet Security conducted a survey, which is very timely, about the summer travel season and BYOD corporate policies. By BYOD, that means when people travel, they typically don't carry their corporate laptop, so they access corporate data using their own devices. Here are some highlights. 55% of employees admit to relying solely on their mobile devices while working from vacation. 25% claim they're not concerned about ensuring network connections are secure when accessing company data. 12% use a VPN when traveling and working remotely. 38% neglected to notify their employers when they're working from a new location, so that could potentially cause issues. There are some services out there that says if an employee moves, similar to your credit card, like if you normally spend all your money in California and all of a sudden you show up in Texas, well, that's a red flag and they flag your credit card. So notifying your employer of potential travel might potentially unblock
Real
your
quick,
access.
on that note, before you rattle it all off, I called, I think, Amex to let them know we're doing some traveling out of the country. They're like, yeah, we already know. You don't have to tell us. I'm like, holy crap. Like, that's pretty cool. They're like, we just gather enough information based off of, like, you know, the stuff that you booked that you're just going to be out of town anyway. So we'll assume that it's legitimate. You don't have to tell us that you're going out of country.
That's like
You don't have to authorize
AI
that. That's
and
kind of
ML
crazy.
working overtime.
Yeah, I was pretty impressed. But then I was like, what happened though? Like, that's great for American Express, but like usually take, you know, maybe a Visa or MasterCard. So you definitely have to call them because you didn't book it with those cards. You always have to have like kind of a backup. But anyways, nonetheless, Amex doing the leveraging AI, making life good.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Using that to combat fraud.
Exactly.
And the last stat here, 45% of employees in the US and the UK said no specific measures were taken to educate and remind employees on security best practices when you travel during the summers. And really no surprise there. I don't think companies put a lot of focus on it securing people while they travel. They just tell them to take their time off.
Yeah. So when I worked at Symantec a while back, it was just kind of when Blue Coat got acquired by Symantec. It was funny because they had an office of, you know, the office of security, the CISO's office, and you could tell them they had a proactive, like, hey, you can let us know where you're going, and we can tell you some of the, you know, cybersecurity things that you should be concerned about, but we'll also talk to you about the physical security things that you should worry about in those countries. I thought that was a great program because, you know, if you tell them you're traveling to South America, they could tell you things that are happening over there. I thought that was a cool program. I don't know if any other companies are doing things like that.
I at companies I worked at, they've never taught us about the so-called evil maid attack, that if you leave your corporate laptop in the hotel room, put a piece of hair in between the hinge, and then if the hair is gone, you know somebody went through your stuff. And that's sort of like InfoSec 101 type OPSEC stuff, but I've never had formal training on that.
Yeah. So when I travel, I don't want people in the room. I'm not that dirty that I need to have it cleaned every day. And I bought like a little modem that can connect to the Wi-Fi and then bridge together that stuff. That way I could bring in a Wise camera that actually has the pan, tilt, and zoom, and I put it in the room, and I always like leave it on the door, like don't enter. And every once in a while they come into the room, and then I have to go downstairs and be like, hey, I have the sign that says don't enter the room, and here's your person wandering in my room. As soon as they see the camera, they immediately just drop trout and get the heck out of there. Yeah, they bolt.
What do they typically do when you confront them with that?
Oh, we're sorry. Sure that they were just probably making sure that everybody was okay in the room. It's like, I'm like, yeah, but I don't want, like, don't disturb. Like, don't come in here. Like,
you should put like a pop-up banner or a poster of you
looming,
your frame, looming over them with your junk hanging out.
There you go. How about I just get like the old Shaq cardboard cutout, right? And just have
there you go.
Standing right there. That'd be great.
Or you could put like white noise of someone snoring in the room, so they open it, and they go, "Uh-oh," and they turn right back around.
What's funny though, when they do come in, it's usually like 5 minutes after I've left the room. It's never been like a couple of hours, right? It's just like I think it's like I think they watched me leave. They went in there knowing full well.
I like my room being refreshed. It's part of the service. I like my towels refreshed. I like my room clean. It just if there's anything in there to steal, they can have it, because really there's nothing of importance that I have that I have to be concerned about. Too concerned about. Let's put it that way.
Ryan might know this because he watched that special about the shooting that happened in Las Vegas, but that happened at Mandalay, and then I remember it was Steve Wynn, who owns the Wynn and the Encore hotels, and he said that this never would have happened at the Wynn, because at the Wynn in Encore. We have a policy that if a guest keeps their privacy sign on for more than 24 hours, we have to do like a wellness check, and we will go in there. So maybe that's what they're doing, Brian. Just make sure you didn't pass out in the room and you're just laying on the floor.
So this was before the shooting, because I used to do this before, and it was always California. That was always the number one place. That Vegas, they didn't do that to me. They never violated my privacy there. It was always San Francisco is where I would have people wandering around in my room.
Those San Franciscans,
which is great,
anti-privacy measures.
Fun
hey,
fact,
isn't that the bastard that has that bastard shirt on that's inside this room?
Yeah.
Let's go find him.
Pro tip, when you're traveling and you're bringing this portable webcam that moves along the room and, does the pan, tilt, and zoom, just cover it. Like when you're getting ready to jump in the shower and whatever.
You're recording yourself walking around naked in the room, Brian.
Yeah, like Bigfoot, right? Just knuckles dragging, walking around.
You know what we could do, Brian? Was probably a good idea. I just realized we didn't do this. Maybe you could put a link to the device that does the bridge for the Wi-Fi network. That would be pretty cool to share with our listeners. Maybe they don't understand the tech, but if you had a link to the model or the device that you had, we could share that with our listeners.
Yeah,
it's like a travel. I think it's called a travel router. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, travel router, and then some kind of PTZ camera. But yeah, we'll link through it if Brian remembers to share it with us.
I think real hard. I almost wonder if the one I have is like the UI is almost entirely in Chinese. So there's that.
Well, that's real secure, Brian.
I'm kidding. I never would have been able to figure that one out.
For our second topic, this story is out of the news cycle, but I still thought it was pretty interesting. For those of you living under a rock, you may not have heard that the Wagner Group, or in Russia, I think it's called the Wagner Group, a paramilitary group in Russia, attempted a coup to overthrow Vladimir Putin after Putin allegedly massacred a number of Wagner encampments. Wagner Group is a major force providing much-needed support to the Russian army during their invasion of Ukraine. The leader of the Wagner Group, Yevgeny Prigozhin, started a march to Moscow before Belarus intervened and brokered a peace deal. However, there was one group that knew about this attempted coup ahead of time, the U.S. intelligence community. Apparently, the Wagner Group's information security policies were so lax, the U.S. spy agencies were able to intercept communications and learn about the attempted coup a full month before it happened. The context of the intercepts were that the U.S. officials were concerned about the fate of the Russian nuclear weapons stockpile if Putin was ousted from office and the prospects of a civil war. It does not look like the U.S. did anything directly to influence the coup in support or against Putin here. Just interesting that we allegedly knew before it happened.
So how lax was it? Was it just like an office memo that printed out on a piece of paper that they just happened to stumble across? I don't know.
I've heard reports that the Wagner Group's IT security practices are so poor. It's like walking into your average company in the 2000s, completely flat network. You get onto one computer, you can access the entire network, every server just entirely flat. So you can think of the NSA just has to compromise one computer and they can get access to everything.
I love that they're just like, it's so lax that even the U.S. was able to get into it. It's like, wait a second, it's kind of I don't know if I feel like that was like, it's kind of a defeat disguised as a compliment.
So there's another concept about this as well. I don't know if you guys saw this, but they're thinking that all is staged, that they're trying to all assemble in
Belarus.
In Belarus in order to get the 50,000 troops there in order to run an attack from the north into Kyiv. So I don't know if you guys subscribe to that theory.
What is interesting, so to counter Brian's point earlier is that their security policies are so lax, even the U.S. intelligence were able to find it. I'm more surprised that the Russian FSB and the GRU, so their own military intelligence units, did not catch it, or you put on the tinfoil, like Glenn said, they FSB and GRU knew about it, they allowed it to happen so that they can amass in Belarus and take Kiev from the north.
Yeah, I mean, are they that off? Like I said, I don't know. Go ahead, Brian.
Anything to do with Russia or Ukraine is scroll blast. I don't even look at it anymore. I'm just like, whatever.
We want that $6 billion back.
Yeah. I have some thoughts on it. Nothing IT related, so we'll just keep our mouths shut.
But apparently, though, the Wagner Group has disbanded. Prigozhin is in exile in Belarus. Allegedly, he had a face-to-face meeting with Putin, and hopefully he bought some better security. I guess Kaspersky, they're pretty much the only ones the Russians can buy now.
Don't you think that the Wagner Group would probably be better off, instead of doing like IT security, like selling steak? Sounds like I'd buy a steak from them. Where'd you get that
from that
Wagner ribeye? Group? The Wagner Group. Yeah, they got the best steaks, man.
It's funny you bring that up. So Yevgeny Prigozhin, his nickname is Putin's chef. And it's because Prigozhin, before he got into paramilitary operations, he was a caterer. He had a number of catering businesses.
Oh, you don't say. I like it.
That's right. And then he had the restaurants, and then it was a state, like I said, yeah, it was, that's an interesting rise to fame.
It's a interesting pivot from catering to paramilitary operations.
Yeah.
All right, guys, quick question. All expense paid trip to Russia or Ukraine or both. You can leave for a month. Would you guys do it?
Why?
Yeah, I definitely would not go to Russia. They jail Americans on Trump.
No, you can't go to jail. You just go there. Would you go check it out?
I think the concept of jail is associated with going to Russia right now for Americans, regardless.
All right, so if I had something like the equivalent of diplomatic immunity and there's no chance I would ever get arrested, I think it'd be a nice place to visit. My parents actually went to St. Petersburg before all this stuff happened, and it was on I think it was a Viking cruise, and they went to a cruise in St. Petersburg, and the comment my parents made were they were being watched everywhere they go, from the dock of the cruise ship to, I don't know what the landmarks are in St. Petersburg, but they visited a couple, and they said, yeah, there were people following them and people keeping tabs on where these Americans were going. But they said it was a nice city, other than being watched all the time.
What year was that, Chris? Because that's either pre-90 or post-90, before 2015, right? You've got different eras of
I would say
control.
Probably 10 years ago, so pre-2015.
Okay.
So, I mean, it was relatively stable, but it's still 100% it was a surveillance state. But I heard it's nice. Go to the Black Sea, go to the beach resorts out there. Western Ukraine is...
Right now, the weather is way better. Half the temp.
Yeah, Western Ukraine is probably okay. The side that faces the Czech Republic and not the side that's currently getting invaded is probably okay right now. But again, why?
Wait a second. So Ukraine is invading Russia now? How the turntables. You're laughing about it. This is a serious question. Are they actually invading? I thought Russia was invading Ukraine.
Yeah.
You're saying Ukraine's invading Russia now?
No. Russia's invading eastern Ukraine right now because they share the eastern border with Russia. So Western Ukraine,
never mind. I missed it.
Is probably okay. The side that faces the Czech Republic, although a lot of the refugees are heading in that direction.
I was still on the whole, you're just going to go visit Russia, not Ukraine. Take advantage of both. Yeah. Okay.
Why would you go, Brian?
Probably. Why not, right? Go check it out. Get hands and feet and try to figure out, gauge the temperature of everyone over there, figure out what's actually going on.
No, with the way you look, Brian, you'll probably accidentally get conscripted into the army. Like, this dude's
on either side.
Like, this dude's a military agent male. He looks like he's a fighter. You're not allowed to leave. Sorry, Brian.
Oh, you're here to kill. Yeah. All right. Let's go.
I'm good. That's one part of the world where I don't necessarily need to go visit.
Not until it's at least a little more stable.
I don't know. Even if it was stable, I probably don't. I have no inkling or inclination to go visit that part of the world.
I do. I think as soon as I'm done working, I'm gonna figure out, like, I just want to travel, and if I can go somewhere on a visa, just figure out what I can max that thing out at, and just go there and 6 months or a year, just like really get immersed in it and have a good time.
Yeah, Prague was beautiful in the Czech Republic. I would highly recommend if you want to visit somewhere in that region. Prague is really, really nice.
I heard you want to go to Amsterdam too, you little druggie.
Never been there, Brian. Never been there.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, I spent a lot of time in my youth, like in my younger 20s in Europe, so I'm good.
That's true. You did get to stay in Germany, which is near the Czech Republic.
You stormed the beach in Normandy, right?
Yeah, that was me. Yeah.
Yeah, flashbacks watching Saving Private Ryan. For our third topic, the UK GCHQ intelligence agency is requesting access to internet logs in real time to prevent financial fraud, among other things. Well, they get super interesting because it's something that AI and ML can do today if it's trained properly. GCHQ is requesting access to metadata logs to see if a particular organization or endpoint is doing something suspicious, like phoning home to a known botnet command and control server and accessing a financial banking website at the same time. So if that happens, there's a high likelihood that the endpoint is compromised and someone's bank account is about to be drained. I'm currently reading a book called Fancy Bear Goes Fishing, and it goes into detail of why payload inspection was never built into the internet to do things like this. If you think of the U.S. Post Office or the Post Office of any country, there's just no possible way every piece of mail can be opened and scanned for malicious content before being delivered to the intended recipient. I'm lucky enough if the letter even shows up undamaged. The same thing is true for the internet. It was never designed with security in mind, and the internet's plumbing was not designed to inspect every packet and email for malicious content. But GCHQ thinks that parsing the metadata can at least give a hint and notify organizations that they may be compromised. The EFF donor in me says the government should not be spying on its citizens, but if it can be done in a way to look for cybercrime and not be used for any extraneous intelligence gathering, then it should be fine.
GDPR shows up. Hold my beer. Like, this ain't happening on my dime. Like, how? Like, I don't understand how that's going to happen. Or does it not apply to GCHQ intelligence?
Well, they're part of the UK, so technically they're not part of the EU.
But what's to stop anyone from putting a tap on the backbone itself, right? I mean, it's free. It's part of the public internet, right? You just have to be able to tap that in there as opposed to just getting the logs themselves. What's the difference?
I think the difference is being able to identify who the source is, because you can get an IP address, but you need basically subpoena power to figure out who owns that IP. Well, I guess that's also public too, because if this AS block belongs to Hewlett Packard, then it's somebody in Hewlett Packard that's compromised. But Hewlett Packard's got about 65,000 employees, so who inside here has been compromised?
So they want to go to the ISPs themselves to get the logs? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, so they want to pass a law that the ISPs will share this metadata. So it's not like NetFlow data. It's not like point-to-point packet capture or anything crazy like that. It's just metadata. And we want to know if something odd's going on, like I'm talking to a command and control center at the same time I'm talking to my bank, because that's a huge red flag.
I wonder if people in the UK look at privacy and government control the same way as we do in the US, which is like every new law that's put into place is all about more control and less for the people. So I wonder if you look at this, you're like, oh yeah, we should allow this to happen, or if there's some naysayers on that side of things, like no, we give them an inch to take a mile. Yeah, it starts off as metadata today, then they'll have another reason to grab even more information the next time around, like just kind of baby stepping into it.
If you remember when we had Guy on the show, he talked about in Israel, there's no such thing as privacy. It's not ours to own, and that's the culture they have there. And he said when he came to the US, it was crazy that how much we value our privacy here. We have something called the Fourth Amendment here that prevents unreasonable search and seizures. Like nothing like that exists in Israel, and that's just not the culture there. So I'm not sure where the UK falls in on that spectrum. I think they're more on the you don't have privacy side.
But I think they do that as a as a lesson learned from them, from what happened in the past, right? So from the idea that if you give privacy, then you can have these little factions, whereas if it's open and the government can't seize that information, then there's no thought that there could be terrorist actions and stuff like that happening on their property or in their grounds, right, or on their land.
Fight it, everyone. Don't give in.
It's a balance. It's a balance. And I agree. I am in total agreement with you. I like the idea, like, corporations should have the ability to look in employee logs. But when it comes to private citizenship, or citizenry, people need their privacy. Like, no, absolutely not. You don't need any of that metadata, right?
And that's why Mozilla was pushing so hard, and I think Cloudflare as well, pushing so hard for DNS over HTTPS, the DOH protocol, because that would obfuscate a lot of this. And I'm guessing the metadata logs is going to be a lot based on DNS logs too. So if everybody switches to DOH, it makes it that much harder to surveil.
Yeah, it's the good and bad. It's the, hey, how can we use this for the better of good? But that there's going to be a certain percentage of people that are going to turn what you're supposed to do legally into something that's criminal in action or intent, right? Just like chat rooms. Chat rooms were never meant to be a way to
good old IRC.
Yeah, communicate, for terrorist communication, but it ended up being that way, right? As opposed to just, people getting together from locations far and wide and being able to collaborate.
Sometimes you do have to wonder, though, like when they're suggesting things, are they suggesting this because that gives them the in to do it? You know what I mean? Like, or if it, like, take DNS over HTTPS, like, really, what was the intent on that? Like, we look at it as a better way of securing and obfuscating what we're doing, but is there maybe some type of backdoor that's in there that we just don't understand and know about yet? It's like we used to do with, like, the export ciphers for the U.S. government, right? Like,
yeah,
you know
crypto
what I mean?
AG. We intentionally crippled the cryptography when we knew it'd be sent to Iran or Syria.
Yeah, I the other day I was talking with somebody at the gym, and he was saying his sister and brother-in-law work for the NSA, and we were just talking about during COVID being over there in Washington D.C. lockdowns, and he says he's got two nephews that he adores, and they're 11 and 13. And the parents, number one, they're like, if you have a Facebook, you should not even use your real name. And I was like, okay. Number two, the kids, they don't have any social media, and they don't even have a phone. And he's like, hey, listen, I have some old iPhones I want to give to the kids that I can communicate with them because they're in DC. I'm here in Arizona. They're like, and the wife is like, there's no way in hell we're going to run an Apple device in this house. So why? So why are they more pro? Like, I look at it, like, if they're really pro Android, is it just because they can see in it? Because, like, I look at Apple being more secure, or is it the other way around? This NSA person is like, heck no, like, it's more vulnerable than we know. Like, what side of the coin do you think that they're actually on? I wish I could.
It'd be an interesting conversation to have with Sam. When we had Sam on, and I putting my hat on as like an NSA analyst, and the only reason I could see why they said we're never having an Apple device here is because either they know something, like this project triangulation bug that they just closed. Either they know something, or they know Apple is a very closed system. It's a very black box system. Like, Android is open. Like, we can tell what Android is doing. So if you use Android correctly, it could be more secure than iOS because we can see the code. We know exactly what everything's doing. And if you only download trusted apps or minimize the number of apps that you have on your phone, it could be more secure than Apple.
That's wild. Just based off, and I'll let you chime in a second, Glenn, but just based off of what we see, like from a mobile platform for like an APK versus iOS, like it's exponentially way bigger vulnerabilities that are out there compared. But what do you think, Glenn?
Well, if I go back to, I'm a former user of Android many years ago, and then, now with Apple, I just like the fact that, we talk about this a lot, that Apple's not there to consume my
they're not an ad company.
Yeah,
like Google and Facebook and Amazon.
exactly. And then some of the things, some of the steps that they've gone through, like before, I turn on a VPN service, right, to hide or obfuscate where I'm coming from. With IP relay now, that really becomes it's so cool. You switch networks, you go Wi-Fi, you go public. I go on Southwest Airlines. It's cool because I see IP relay turn on, IP relay turn off, and it just totally hides who I am. I could even turn on the email, email obfuscation,
Hide
so that
my
way,
email.
yeah, hide my email. Those are cool things that I think I love as a consumer, right? It makes it easy for me to consume, and it makes it easy for me to hide myself. Whereas if I am an employer or a corporation, that is my worst nightmare, like trying to figure out where my employees are and what I'm trying to accomplish with trying to make sure that the corporate data doesn't escape, right? So you got two factions that are just like against odds at each other. They just don't mix well together, right? And as like I said, working for both or being in both scenarios, I see both sides. But I'll be honest with you, I seeing Android and what it's capable of, no thanks. Like it is the wild, wild west as far as security is concerned.
I look at it through the same lens as, I guess, as both of you and Chris specifically. Maybe there is some sort of bug around iOS, but I wholeheartedly believe, I think for this particular parent working for the NSA, it's about control, right? And I think that if you hand an iPhone to an 11 or a 13-year-old kid, you don't have the same level of control that you would with Android. I think that's the lens that they're coming through. And by the way, like the private IP relay and the private address, I think every NAC company, or I should say every organization that had NAC rolled out probably kind of crapped their pants when that became like, why do we have 15,000 new devices on the network today, right? Like, it's beautiful.
Yeah, last comment I want to make before we move on to our last topic is I've heard in interviews with people in the intelligence community, and they said, for the vast spying apparatus that is the U.S. intelligence community with their enormous budgets from the Defense Department, they would kill to have just 10% of the data that Facebook or Google has that people just freely give away to them. They would kill to have just a sliver of that data because we give up so much of that data freely to Facebook and Google and Amazon and all those companies that the U.S. intelligence agencies is just working so hard to get just a fraction of that.
Yeah,
it's amazing, right? It's like I sit there and I wonder sometimes about my kids because they post everything, and the only thing that I've taught them was like, hey, don't post while we're on vacation. I don't want anyone to know that we're not home. Like that's like OPSEC number
OPSEC
101. Yeah, 101. Yeah, like just don't do it, right?
Yeah.
Wait till we come back home. And they've taken that, but some of the other things just like I don't get why they have a need to or feel a need to take a picture around every little thing at every little angle and then post it on the internet. It's like, oh my God, this is just like really bad. So, yeah.
So I'm with you. I actually gave up social media. I think I mentioned that maybe about a month ago. And I'll be honest with you guys. Like I thought I was pretty smart about social media, but I feel an overwhelming sense of more happiness now that I'm not on it. And I think subconsciously I was comparing myself and some of my circumstances to the people that I follow online. I was like, oh man, this is much better not being a part of that and not being on the old death scroll. So even somebody that, like me, that I thought I was completely aware of like the hold that it could possibly have on you, I thought I had it under control. I didn't. I don't think I did.
Yeah. I think you said
digital
it best.
Detox.
Yeah, I think you said it best though, right? It's these little echo chambers that you get in, and it just keeps feeding your mind, and it just magnifies itself even more.
Yeah.
As opposed to just like, hey, let me go to a bar, hang out with my friends, and let's just talk about things. And then you leave the bar and you're kind of done. You kind of go home and you can kind of think about your thoughts for the day until the next time you guys get together, which is maybe 2 weeks, a month, or whatever, a quarter, right? Whereas, you go into social media and you think about it, you get upset, and then what do? Like you go back into it because you're sitting in the backyard, you're not doing anything. You're sitting in the car, you're doing something. It's just too accessible. and it's a magnification box, like you said. It's a huge
24/7.
Yeah, it's a huge echo chamber, and I like the idea. I mean, I'm pretty much giving up on Facebook. The only thing I'm watching right now is YouTube and maybe IG every once in a while, only because you guys forced me to use IG. But yeah.
For our last topic, it'll be a rotating topic every week. This week, we're going to play a game, and you can play along too. The game is to fire up your favorite search engine, which of course mine is DuckDuckGo, and search for your birthday, month, and day, and then add the words Florida Man to the end of it. I'll give you 3 stories as to maintain OPSEC, and only one of them is actually my true birthday. Number 1.
I was doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Florida man. Number 1. Florida man rides manatee, dares police to arrest him, gets arrested. Number 2. Florida man drove 112 miles per hour on shoulder to impress girlfriend. And the last one, number 3. Florida man arrested after driving 110 miles per hour while naked with 3 women in a Cadillac.
Hey, that's my Florida man as well. Must have done that a couple times.
All right, what do you guys got?
Go ahead and go, Glenn.
No, I had mine ready, and then now for some reason I can't see where I put that on. Just go ahead.
Okay, let's see. The first one, where is it at? Florida man tells cop that's what she said after being pulled over in question about his bulge.
What?
All right. Florida man shows off gun, accidentally shoots himself. And Florida man chases his son who was not bathing with his van.
Okay.
With his van.
Here's one for me. A couple. Florida man helped U.S. Marine accomplice in California Planned Parenthood bombing. And then bombing.
Oh,
bombing.
Okay.
Bombing, yeah. And then man allegedly shot and killed his pregnant transgender boyfriend.
That's a recent one.
Florida
huh?
man. Yeah. And then Florida man claims that he killed a Florida millionaire. So
yours weren't as good as spicy as ours.
Yeah. That's just kind of weird, stupid stuff. So, but yeah.
And we shouldn't be biased. There are plenty of Florida women stories as well, but the whole meme is Florida man.
Yeah.
It's funny I brought that up, and
beer.
Chris immediately posted the meme that I had actually seen on Twitter.
Yeah, I
like 2
sent that
seconds
to you
later.
guys like months ago in the group chat.
Oh, okay. But here's
I
the thing.
just missed it.
Probably did miss it, but the fact that you showed the exact same meme that I had seen like momentarily before on Twitter, I thought was interesting.
Yeah. It's that Apple device. I'm spying on you.
Oh, there's a FloridaManBirthday.org, and it has this is a website.
So they actually catalog everything.
Just putting it, yeah, that's awesome.
Oh,
Type your birthday. When you told us about this, Chris, I went in and I said, birthday, Florida man, and I guess everybody's trying to capture what happened on their birthday in Florida man. I was like, oh, okay. And I went as far as to go, what happened, on my exact year, and couldn't find it. But Florida man predates that, so yeah.
All right. How about a man decapitated a hamster and dropped it in a box on the side of the road? This website's gold. I'm going to be here for a while.
All right, we'll link through to that one for sure. Well, if you didn't know, the reason we have so many awesome Florida man and Florida woman stories is because of Florida's open record laws. Florida is the 3rd most populous state, so statistically, more weird things are going to happen there. Since 1909, Florida has had a proud tradition that all government business is public business and therefore should be available to the public. That means all records, including photos and videos produced by a public agency, are easily accessible with a few narrow and obvious exceptions.
Well, that's part of the Freedom of Information Act, right? I mean, it's like you should be able to go and look at public records, as any law-abiding citizen should be able to go to, right?
Yeah, but I guess it's more open in Florida than it is in other. It's either more open or it's easier to access.
Yeah, I mean, for a while, they used to have these in the newspaper, like all the arrests of everything, the blotter, the police blotter. They used to have that in the newspapers, and I guess you could usually find them in the digital online content for those newspapers. Those newspapers are gone, by the way. But you could typically look at the blotters for your city and see. I don't think they'll say exactly who the person is, but you should be able to get some detail inside there.
Right. Yeah, you can look up California Man.
California Man,
crazy stuff that happens here too.
Yeah.
I remember reading those in the town newspaper, and I think if you sat there and read that weekly long enough, you could see probably some trends with certain people, right? And just like, it's just a matter of time before it goes from an arrest log to an obituary, which it always inevitably did.
Right.
Well, if you live in a small enough town, you can go, hey, that's Bob. I know who that is.
Figure it out.
Oh yeah,
Joe's
I know that. I know that guy. So
we continue to get great comments about our dad joke of the week.
Dad joke of the week.
This week, Brian's up.
Ooh. So did you guys hear about the superhero that always worked out? He's Thor.
Wah,
wah, wah.
All right, to wrap things up, be careful with corporate data when you're traveling this summer. Military intelligence is not an oxymoron. GCHQ is looking to metadata to stop fraud. And long live the Florida man. That's all we have for this week. We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. You can find us all on LinkedIn. Links will be in the description. Follow us on Instagram at PEBCAK Podcast. Thank you to all our listeners and subscribers who rated us 5 stars in the iTunes Store and Spotify and left us a review. We appreciate you all spreading the word to help grow the show. The best way to find us is a search for the PEBCAK Podcast in your favorite podcast listening app. For my co-hosts Brian Deitch and Glenn Medina, I'm Chris Louie. Thanks for listening. We'll see you all next weekend. As always, have a nice day.
bye, Felicia.
Have a nice day.